Chosen one. Take these words and enter the Billionaire gang. I repeat, take these words and enter the Billionaire gang. You deserve a better life. You deserve a better version. Chosen one. You are not listening to this by accident. This moment has been scheduled by heaven. The timing is precise. The stirring you feel in your spirit right now is not confusion, it is recognition. You have always known you were meant for more, yet there were seasons where you felt lost, unsure, or standing still while your soul kept whispering that you were created for abundance, influence, and elevation. You may not have known what step to take next, or what was missing, but deep down you knew this. You were not born to live small, and you were not born to stay average. Anointed one, you are standing at the edge of a supernatural shift. Scripture says in Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 3 that the vision waits for an appointed time, and this is that time. What has been delayed is now aligning. What has been hidden is now being revealed. This is not just about money. This is about divine positioning, kingdom access, and a sudden transfer that requires a new way of thinking, moving, and choosing. Stay with this message. Listen to the very end. Because by the time this video is finished, clarity will replace confusion, direction will replace wandering, and you will know exactly what to do next. Subscribe now to stay connected to this calling. And in the comments, make this declaration with faith: I know what to do. Chosen one. There is a moment in every life when heaven stops whispering and starts pressing. This is that moment. The unease you've been feeling is not confusion, it is invitation. There is a place you have been circling, a decision, you have been postponing, a conversation you keep rehearsing but never initiating. And deep in your spirit, you already know this truth. The very place you've been avoiding is the doorway to the next level of your life. The fear is not a warning to turn back. It is confirmation that you are standing at the edge of something that will change you. I learned this in a season when my body was tired, but my spirit was wide awake. I took time away from noise, away from validation, away from everyone else's expectations, and I sat alone with my thoughts. No music, no distraction, just movement, breath, and the questions that don't let you sleep at night. And as the hours passed, something happened. The mind quieted and clarity began to surface, not as a shout, but as flashes. Names I needed to call, doors I needed to close, decisions I had delayed because I was afraid of what they would require from me. That day taught me this: pain is not the enemy, avoidance is. Challenges are not sent to break you, they are sent to shape you into someone who can carry more. Chosen one. Most people never enter that place. They stay busy so they never have to listen. They stay distracted so they never have to decide. They call it comfort, but it is really containment. The reason is simple: expansion creates responsibility. When you grow, you have something to protect. When you rise, you have something to steward. And that level of accountability scares people more than staying small ever could. They would rather remain familiar than become powerful. But you were not created to live beneath your potential. You were created to confront it. Here is the truth the Billionaire Circle understands. Intuitively, complexity is a hiding place for fear. It feels productive, but it is actually avoidance dressed as intelligence. I have watched people add more offers, more strategies, more projects, more noise, thinking they are scaling when in reality they are fragmenting their focus. Heaven does not bless clutter. Growth flows through simplicity. When you remove what does not belong, power concentrates. When you strip away the unnecessary, momentum accelerates. Every addition comes with a cost, and until you learn to subtract, you will never multiply the way you are meant to. I once sat across from someone who insisted they were doing everything to grow, yet their energy was scattered across too many directions. They were running multiple paths at once, hoping one would break through. But greatness doesn't respond to chaos. It responds to devotion. When you give one assignment your full weight, it opens doors that 10 half efforts never will. This is not about working harder. It is about working truer. The chosen one does not chase everything. They commit to the one thing heaven has placed in their hands for this season. And this is where many miss the transfer. Time is not neutral. It is a currency. How you spend it reveals what you worship. I grew up watching people trade their future for the illusion of saving a little money, not realizing they were losing years they would never get back. The wealthy understand something early: money can be replaced, but time cannot. So they use resources to buy back hours, and they use those hours to become more valuable, more aligned, more prepared. If you are constantly doing what others could do for you, you are blocking your own expansion. Leverage is not laziness, it is obedience to scale. Chosen one, you are not meant to do everything yourself. That belief is not humility, it is control masquerading as responsibility. When you allow others to carry what they are capable of carrying, you free yourself to operate in the space only you can occupy. I learned that perfection is the enemy of progress. Something done 80% well by another person is often far more powerful than something done perfectly by you at the cost of your focus, your energy, and your vision. You cannot build a kingdom if you insist on holding every brick. And hear this clearly: worry is not wisdom. It is misdirected imagination. Every time you worry, you are rehearsing a future that has not been authorized. You are giving your creative power to fear instead of faith. I've sat with people who planned endlessly for what could go wrong and wondered why nothing ever went right. It is because what you focus on grows. When you expect resistance, you attract it. When you plan for victory, you align with it. Assume positive intention. Assume alignment. Assume that even delays carry instruction. This is not denial. It is spiritual posture. There were seasons when results felt slow, when effort seemed invisible. And in those moments I had to learn patience with outcomes, but urgency with action. Heaven honors consistency over hype. The greatest breakthroughs are born in long obedience, not short bursts of excitement. You cannot rush gestation. Some assignments require years of unseen faithfulness before they surface. That does not mean you are off track. It means you are being rooted. Those who can move without immediate reward are the ones who eventually receive rewards that do not fade. Chosen one, begin with the end in mind. If you do not define the life you are building, you may arrive somewhere impressive and still feel empty. I have seen people sacrifice health, relationships, and peace in the name of success, only to discover they climbed the wrong ladder. True elevation feels aligned. It feels integrated. It feels whole. You are allowed to want more and still be grateful. Desire is not greed when it is guided by purpose. Gratitude anchors you. Dissatisfaction propels you. Both are necessary. And let me say this gently but firmly: invest in your becoming before you invest in your appearance. Skills compound. Image depreciates. When I chose to pour resources into learning, mentorship, and growth before comfort, everything changed. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is not luck. It is learning. If you already knew what you needed to know, you would already be living what you desire. Growth is not punishment. It is preparation. Chosen one, do not rush decisions that shape your destiny. Speed feels powerful, but wisdom moves deliberately. Take action to test, but give decisions room to breathe. Ask what must be true for this to be right. Let clarity settle before commitment. The most successful people act quickly on information, but decide slowly on direction. There is a difference. As you sit with these words, feel what is stirring. Something is aligning, something is being stripped away, something is being clarified. This is not random. Heaven is reorganizing your inner world so your outer world can finally respond. Stay present, stay honest, stay willing to enter the place you once avoided, because that is where the transfer begins. Chosen one. There is a pattern I need you to recognize, because once you see it, you will never unsee it again. The people who rise into the billionaire circle do not think in straight lines. They think in reversals. When the world says, avoid risk, they ask where the opportunity hides. When the world says, protect what you have, they ask how to expand what is possible. This is not recklessness. It is vision trained by experience and anchored in trust. One of the greatest shifts that ever happened in my life came when I learned to invert my questions. I stopped asking, how do I succeed, and started asking, what guarantees failure? And the answers came fast. Comfort without growth, loyalty to environments that no longer fit, avoiding difficult conversations, postponing decisions that demanded courage. When I saw those patterns clearly, the path forward became obvious. Simply do the opposite. This is not mystical. It is practical wisdom dressed in humility. Heaven often reveals direction by showing you what not to become. Anointed one. This is where many get stuck because they confuse caution with wisdom. They believe playing not to lose is safer than playing to win. But safety is an illusion when it costs you your assignment. I have watched people shrink their dreams to match their fear, not realizing they were slowly training themselves to live beneath their calling. Expansion requires faith. It requires the willingness to be misunderstood. The abundance mindset is not about arrogance, it is about responsibility. It says, if more is possible, then I must grow to carry it well. Let me ground this in something real. I've seen people uproot their entire lives to save money only to lose time, peace, and momentum in the process. They focused so much on what they could avoid losing that they never asked what they could gain by staying aligned. Wealth is not built by contraction, it is built by value creation. When you shift your energy from defense to offense, everything changes. You stop asking how to protect yourself and start asking how to serve at a higher level, and service, when done correctly, always returns multiplied. Chosen one, stop asking how too early. That question, when asked prematurely, shrinks destiny. The mind wants logistics, the spirit wants permission. When you fixate on how before the vision is fully formed, you unconsciously reduce the size of the dream to something manageable. But heaven never assigns manageable dreams. It assigns becoming. Focus first on what you are being called to build and why it matters. When the what and the why are clear, the how will chase you down through conversations, books, opportunities, and unexpected doors. I cannot count how many times clarity came to me, not while planning but while moving, while showing up, while staying faithful to the next step instead of demanding the full map. The how reveals itself to those already walking. Waiting for certainty before action is often disguised fear. Action taken in faith is what sharpens discernment. You do not become confident by thinking. You become confident by surviving your own courage. And here is another truth the chosen one must accept. Problems are not obstacles. They are invitations. The wealthy are not obsessed with comfort. They are obsessed with inefficiency. They walk into rooms and instantly notice what is broken, slow, confusing, or unnecessary. Where others complain, they calculate. Where others tolerate, they redesign. This is not negativity, it is vision trained to see potential. Start paying attention to what frustrates you. Those irritations are clues. They point toward problems you were designed to solve. I remember noticing small inefficiencies in everyday life that others ignored. Little things, clunky processes, obvious gaps. At first they seemed insignificant, but over time I realized something powerful. The world rewards those who remove friction. Solve a problem for someone with resources and value flows naturally. This is why solving rich people problems accelerates wealth faster than solving survival level ones. The size of the problem you solve often determines the scale of the reward. Chosen one. There is also a spiritual law you must embody if you are to enter the billionaire gang. Do not hoard. Flow. When people receive insight, they often clutch it in fear, thinking secrecy protects value. But abundance does not respond to containment. It responds to circulation. When you become a river instead of a reservoir, life begins to trust you with more. Ideas sharpen when shared. Influence grows when value is given freely. Implementation is where commitment reveals itself, not information. I learned early that generosity of insight creates authority. When you help others move forward without immediately demanding something in return, reputation builds quietly but powerfully. This does not mean giving everything to everyone. It means operating from overflow rather than scarcity. Teach what you know, share what you've learned. Let your wisdom speak before your credentials do. The more value you release, the more opportunity returns, often from places you did not expect. Now hear this, closely anointed one. Passion is not optional at this level. It is fuel. You cannot fake obsession. You cannot outsource hunger. The people who build enduring wealth are not chasing money, they are chasing mastery. They lose track of time because they love the problem they are solving. They would do the work even if no one was watching. That is why they outlast others. Passion carries you through seasons when motivation fades. Ask yourself honestly, what do you do when you procrastinate? What captures your attention effortlessly? What do you research for free? Those answers are not random, they are signals. Somewhere inside that curiosity is a path to provision. Do not dismiss it because it doesn't look impressive yet. Many of the most lucrative industries began as overlooked interests. The question is not whether your passion can be monetized. The question is whether you are willing to commit to it long enough to become excellent. Chosen one. Excellence attracts provision, not hype, not shortcuts, not pretending. When you align your work with what energizes you, effort stops feeling like sacrifice. It becomes expression. And expression, when refined, becomes impact. I have lived seasons where work looked like play to outsiders, not because it was easy, but because it was aligned. When alignment happens, endurance multiplies. And endurance is what separates momentary success from lasting wealth. Do not disqualify yourself because you do not yet believe fully. Faith often follows obedience. You step, then belief catches up. The fact that you are still listening means something in you recognizes truth before your mind fully agrees. That is okay. Growth is not instant, it is layered. Let this message settle. Let it challenge your habits, your assumptions, your excuses. You are not behind. You are being calibrated. Heaven is not rushing you, but it is inviting you forward. Pay attention to what is being highlighted in your spirit. What feels heavy, what feels urgent, what feels unfinished. Those are not burdens, they are signals. Something is being unlocked, something is being rearranged. Stay open, stay willing, stay moving. Because when alignment meets action, the shift you've been sensing begins to manifest in very real ways. Chosen one. There is a quiet truth that separates those who merely accumulate from those who are entrusted with influence. Decision-making is a spiritual discipline. Every level you rise to will demand a new relationship with choice. At lower levels, decisions are reversible. At higher levels, decisions create momentum that cannot easily be undone. This is why heaven trains you slowly. It is not delay, it is conditioning. I learned this lesson the hard way through decisions made too quickly and consequences that took much longer to repair. There were moments when an opportunity looked perfect on the surface, fast returns, exciting language, the promise of acceleration. And because I wanted movement more than clarity, I said yes before I listened deeply. What followed was not punishment, but instruction. I learned that speed without discernment is just motion, not progress. Heaven does not rush what it intends to sustain. Chosen one. You must understand this clarity is expensive and it is worth paying for. The wealthy do not rush major decisions because they know the cost of reversal. They slow the process, ask better questions, and allow space for truth to surface. They test ideas without marrying them. They act quickly to gather information, but they decide slowly to protect alignment. This is not hesitation. It is maturity. When faced with a decision that could alter your direction, ask yourself what must be true for this to be right. Not what feels exciting, not what looks impressive, but what aligns with the end you are building toward. Sleep on it. Let your nervous system settle. Often wisdom speaks once urgency leaves the room. If something is meant for you, it will still be there tomorrow. Pressure is rarely divine. There is also a pattern heaven uses to sharpen your discernment. It allows you to see what you do not want before revealing what you do. This is why inversion is such a powerful tool. When you ask, what would guarantee failure, you strip illusion away. Laziness, avoidance, staying in environments that drain you, ignoring your health, refusing to learn. When you remove those patterns, the path forward becomes clearer without needing mystical signs. Obedience often looks practical before it looks spiritual. Chosen one, do not underestimate the power of choosing to play to win. Many people organize their entire lives around minimizing loss. They call it wisdom, but it is fear in disguise. They choose safe roles, safe conversations, safe dreams, and over time, safety becomes stagnation. Those who build extraordinary lives orient themselves around possibility. They ask, what could go right if I show up fully? They focus on expansion, not avoidance. An abundance mindset does not deny reality. It refuses to be ruled by it. It acknowledges risk without worshipping it. Scarcity asks, what if I lose? Abundance asks, what if I grow? The question you ask determines the future you rehearse, and the future you rehearse shapes the actions you take today. This is why mindset is not motivational language, it is strategic alignment. Let me speak to you personally here. There were seasons when I felt torn between preserving what I had and pursuing what I knew I was called to build. Preservation felt responsible, expansion felt risky. But every time I chose comfort over calling something inside me dimmed. And every time I chose growth, even when it was uncomfortable, energy returned. Peace followed action, not before, after. Chosen. One, dreams do not shrink because they are unrealistic. They shrink because we ask the wrong questions too early. When you obsess over the how, you unconsciously limit the what. You reduce vision to what you can currently imagine. But heaven's assignments require becoming someone new, not just doing something different. Ask first who you must become. Skills can be learned. Systems can be built. Identity must be expanded. I cannot tell you how many breakthroughs came not from planning, but from permission. Permission to think bigger, permission to want more, permission to believe that my life could be both meaningful and abundant. Many people feel guilty for desiring more because they confuse gratitude with stagnation. But gratitude grounds you. Desire propels you. You are allowed to be thankful and still hungry. Heaven is not offended by your growth. It is invested in it. Chosen. One, problems are not interruptions to your path. They are markers along it. The reason certain issues irritate you more than others is because you are wired to solve them. Pay attention to patterns of frustration. What feels inefficient? What feels outdated? What feels unnecessarily difficult? Those questions are clues pointing toward value creation. The world compensates those who reduce friction and increase clarity. I remember noticing small inefficiencies that others ignored, processes that took too long, systems that confused people. At first I dismissed them as minor annoyances, but over time I realized those annoyances were invitations. When you learn to see the world through the lens of improvement, opportunity becomes constant. Entrepreneurs are not lucky, they are observant. And here is another truth you must internalize: the size of the problem you solve determines the scale of the reward. When you solve problems for people with resources, value flows more easily. This is not elitism, it is economics. Many stay stuck solving survival-level problems because they are familiar. But heaven may be calling you to think higher, serve smarter, and position yourself differently. Do not be afraid to shift who you are helping if alignment requires it. Chosen one, generosity is not weakness, it is strategy. When you share insight freely, you build trust. When you help others move forward without immediate expectation, reputation grows quietly. This is why being a river matters. Hoarded ideas stagnate, shared wisdom multiplies. Influence expands when value circulates. You are not losing by giving, you are signaling readiness for more. I learned that information alone does not create authority, transformation does. When people see that your words produce results, they listen differently. Teach what you know, share what you've learned. Let your lived experience speak louder than theory. Authority follows consistency, not secrecy. And now, anointed one, we arrive at something essential: passion, not excitement, not hype. Passion, the kind that sustains effort when no one is watching. The people who build lasting wealth are not chasing applause. They are obsessed with the problem they are solving. They think about it when they wake up. They research it for fun. They lose track of time working on it. That obsession becomes their unfair advantage. Ask yourself what draws you naturally. What do you return to when your mind wanders? What feels like play but produces value? Those signals are not accidents. They are design. Do not dismiss them because they seem ordinary. Mastery turns the ordinary into the extraordinary over time. Most quit before they reach that stage. You do not have to. Chosen one, belief often lags behind obedience. You do not need full confidence to move forward. You need willingness. Take the next step. Learn the next skill. Make the next call. Alignment reveals itself through motion. The fact that you are still here listening, considering, feeling stirred, that matters. Something in you recognizes truth even before your logic agrees. You are not late. You are being refined. Heaven is adjusting your posture, sharpening your focus, and preparing your capacity. Stay honest with yourself. Stay responsive to what is being highlighted. Stay courageous enough to choose growth over comfort. The path ahead is not about perfection, it is about alignment. And alignment, once established, begins to open doors that effort alone never could. Chosen one. There comes a stage in the journey where effort alone no longer produces movement. You can be disciplined, intelligent, consistent, and still feel like you are pressing against an invisible ceiling. This is not because you lack ability, it is because capacity must be expanded before increase can be sustained. Heaven will not pour new wine into old wineskins. Before the wealth shifts, before the doors open, before the influence multiplies, something inside you must stretch. This stretching rarely feels glorious. It feels like tension. It feels like delay. It feels like being asked to let go of methods that once worked but no longer serve the season ahead. I remember realizing that what brought me here could not take me further. The habits, the structures, even the identity that once felt like progress had become constraints. And the hardest part was admitting it. Growth demands honesty. Not public honesty, private honesty, the kind that confronts your attachment to familiarity. Chosen one. The wealthy understand leverage at a soul level. They know that multiplication does not come from adding more effort, but from aligning effort with structure. This is why they protect time fiercely. Time is not something you manage, it is something you steward. Every hour you spend doing what someone else could do is an hour stolen from what only you can do. This is not about arrogance, it is about responsibility. You were not designed to be everywhere, you were designed to be effective. I watched this lesson unfold in my own life when exhaustion became my constant companion. I was busy, productive, admired, but drained. And it took humility to realize that my insistence on doing everything myself was not noble. It was limiting. Delegation felt risky at first. It required trust. It required releasing control. But what I discovered was this: when you empower others to carry what they are capable of carrying, you step fully into your assignment. Leadership is not control, it is alignment. Chosen. One perfection is often a disguise for fear. Fear of being disappointed, fear of being exposed, fear of being replaceable. But growth does not require perfection, it requires progress. Something done 80% well by another person frees you to focus on the 10% that truly matters: the vision, the direction, the refinement that only you can provide. This is how scale happens, not by doing more but by doing what matters most. And hear this clearly: worry is not caution, it is misplaced devotion. Every time you worry, you are giving mental energy to a future that has not been authorized. You are rehearsing loss instead of preparing for expansion. I have sat with people who were brilliant yet paralyzed by worst-case scenarios. They planned for failure so thoroughly that success had no room to land. What you imagine consistently becomes the environment you operate in. Chosen. One imagination is a tool. Use it wisely. If the negative outcome is as likely as the positive one, why not prepare for the outcome that aligns with your calling? Assume positive intention. Assume alignment. Assume that even disruptions carry instruction. This posture does not make you naive, it makes you resilient. When your inner world is settled, external turbulence loses its power to derail you. There were seasons when results were slow and feedback was minimal. No applause, no confirmation, just quiet obedience. In those seasons, I learned the discipline of being patient with results, but impatient with action. Action is your responsibility. Timing is not. The seed does not rush the harvest. It remains faithful to the soil. Many quit because they expect immediate validation. Those who endure understand that consistency compounds invisibly long before it manifests visibly. Chosen one, long obedience produces uncommon outcomes. The people who win biggest are not always the most talented. They are the most committed. They show up when motivation fades. They continue when progress feels invisible. They trust the process even when the process is uncomfortable. This is not blind faith. It is informed persistence. Now let us speak about vision. Begin with the end in mind. Not the end others applaud, but the end you can live with. I have seen people achieve impressive milestones only to discover they sacrificed peace, health, and relationships along the way. Success without alignment feels hollow. You are allowed to want wealth and wholeness. They are not enemies. When you design your future intentionally, you avoid building a life you later have to dismantle. Chosen. One gratitude does not cancel ambition. It anchors it. You can be deeply thankful for where you are and still know you are meant to expand. Wanting more does not mean you despise what you have. It means you recognize unused capacity. Heaven places desire inside you as a signal, not a flaw. Desire, when disciplined, becomes destiny. Investment is another form of faith. When I chose to invest in my skill set instead of my image, everything shifted. Skills create leverage. Appearance creates illusion. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is bridged by learning, not wishing. If success has not arrived yet, it is not because you are unworthy. It is because there is something new to acquire: knowledge, perspective, discipline that will make you capable of sustaining it. Chosen one, never rush decisions that shape your future. Speed is seductive, but wisdom moves deliberately. I learned that the hard way through decisions made in excitement that later demanded repair. Pressure is rarely divine. If something is right, it will still be right after clarity arrives. Slow the moment down. Ask what must be true. Let the noise settle. Discernment sharpens when urgency fades. Heaven often teaches through contrast. It shows you what fails so you can recognize what works. This is why inversion matters. When you identify the habits that guarantee stagnation, comfort without challenge, learning without application, loyalty to misaligned environments, you gain power to choose differently. Obedience often looks simple, not mystical. Do the opposite of what keeps you small. Chosen one, stop organizing your life around avoiding loss. That mindset shrinks capacity. Play to win. Expansion requires courage. An abundance mindset is not denial, it is expectation trained by experience. It says, there is more available if I am willing to grow into it. When you focus on expansion, creativity awakens, solutions appear, energy returns. And finally, understand this: alignment precedes acceleration. When your inner world, your habits, your vision, and your actions point in the same direction, movement becomes inevitable. You stop forcing doors. You start recognizing invitations. The unease you felt is not a warning. It is a signal that something is shifting. Capacity is being stretched. Identity is being refined. Stay present with the process. Chosen one, you are not stuck. You are being prepared. The pressure you feel is not meant to crush you. It is meant to expand you. Remain willing, remain honest, remain courageous enough to release what no longer fits. When capacity and alignment meet, the breakthrough you've sensed begins to unfold, not as chaos, but as confirmation. Chosen one. There is a final internal shift that must occur before wealth stops feeling distant and starts responding to you. It is the shift from being driven by urgency to being governed by authority. Urgency pushes, authority attracts. Many people work endlessly, hustle relentlessly, and still wonder why the doors remain closed. It is because heaven does not respond to exhaustion. It responds to alignment. Authority is quiet. It does not rush. It does not beg. It does not over-explain. Authority moves with clarity because it knows who it is and what it carries. When you step into authority, opportunities no longer feel like chances you might lose. They feel like invitations you can discern. This is why the inner work matters more than the outer strategy. Strategy without authority collapses under pressure. Authority sustains strategy. I remember a season when I was chasing momentum instead of cultivating posture. I was doing all the right things, networking, building, creating, but something was off. The work produced movement, but not peace. And it was in that tension that I realized I was still trying to prove something instead of stewarding something. Proof-seeking drains energy. Stewardship multiplies it. The moment I shifted from trying to convince the world to quietly building what was assigned to me, resistance faded. Chosen one. You must stop outsourcing your confidence to results. Results are indicators, not identity. If your sense of worth rises and falls with outcomes, you will never lead from stability. True confidence comes from knowing you are aligned even when the evidence has not yet appeared. This is why faith precedes manifestation. You do not wait to believe until things work. Things work because you believed long enough to stay consistent. Another truth the billionaire circle lives by is this: they do not chase recognition, they build resonance. Recognition is loud and fleeting. Resonance is subtle and enduring. When your work carries truth, clarity, and value, the right people feel it. They may not articulate it immediately, but alignment draws alignment. You do not need everyone to understand you. You need the right ones to recognize you. Chosen one. Stop explaining yourself to environments that benefit from misunderstanding you. There are rooms where your clarity will be questioned, not because it is wrong, but because it disrupts the status quo. Do not shrink to maintain comfort. Elevation requires separation, not isolation, but discernment. You cannot carry everyone into the next season. Some relationships are seasonal. Honoring the season means releasing it when it ends. This release is one of the hardest tests. Letting go of what is familiar can feel like loss even when it is necessary. But understand this: what you release creates space for what you are meant to receive. Heaven cannot place new responsibility in hands that are already full. Emptying is not punishment, it is preparation. Trust the pruning. Growth always follows it. Chosen one. Wealth flows toward clarity. When you are clear about what you are building, who you are serving, and why it matters, decisions become simpler. Confusion drains energy. Clarity concentrates it. This is why the most effective people protect their mental environment fiercely. They limit noise. They choose their inputs intentionally. They understand that focus is not just a productivity tool, it is a spiritual discipline. I learned to guard my attention the same way I guarded my finances. Not every conversation deserves access. Not every opinion deserves consideration. When you allow too many voices to shape your direction, you dilute your authority. Seek counsel from those who have walked the path, not those who fear it. Wisdom multiplies when it is aligned with experience. Chosen one. Remember this: your pace must match your capacity. Moving too fast can damage what you are building just as surely as moving too slow. There is a rhythm to expansion. Listen for it. Honor it. When your actions move in sync with your inner alignment, progress feels steady rather than frantic. This is how sustainability is built. Another defining trait of those who rise is their relationship with problems. They do not personalize difficulty. They analyze it. They ask, "What is this teaching me?" rather than "Why is this happening to me?" This shift keeps you empowered. Victimhood drains creativity. Responsibility fuels it. You cannot control everything that happens, but you can control how you respond. And response shapes trajectory. Chosen one. Generosity remains a cornerstone at this level, not performative generosity, but strategic contribution. When you give value freely, you signal abundance. When you help others advance without attachment, trust compounds. This does not mean ignoring boundaries. It means operating from overflow rather than fear. The river flows because it is constantly replenished. Stagnation occurs when flow stops. I have watched opportunities return multiplied simply because I chose to serve without immediate expectation. Influence grows when your intent is clean. People sense authenticity. They lean toward those who are not trying to extract but to build. Long-term wealth is relational before it is financial. Trust is the true currency. Chosen one mastery is what ultimately separates temporary success from lasting legacy. Mastery requires patience. It requires repetition. It requires humility, the willingness to refine what you already know instead of constantly chasing novelty. Many plateau because they abandon foundations too early. Depth creates differentiation. When you know your craft deeply, confidence stabilizes and results become predictable. Passion sustains this process, not excitement, passion. The quiet devotion to improvement when no one is watching. The curiosity that keeps you learning. The satisfaction of progress even before recognition arrives. Passion aligned with discipline becomes power. This is how work transforms into expression rather than obligation. And here this chosen one doubt does not disqualify you. Everyone who has built something meaningful has doubted at some point. What matters is not the absence of doubt, but the presence of commitment. Doubt asks questions. Commitment takes action anyway. Over time, action answers the questions doubt raises. You are not required to have everything figured out. You are required to stay responsive, to adjust when necessary, to remain teachable, to remain grounded. Heaven works with those who are willing, not those who are perfect. Stay honest with yourself. Stay aligned with your values. Stay courageous enough to keep choosing growth. As you continue forward, notice how your posture is changing. Notice how certain fears no longer carry the same weight. Notice how clarity is replacing urgency. This is not coincidence, it is calibration. Authority is settling in. Alignment is deepening. You are becoming the kind of person who does not chase wealth, but attracts it naturally through value, clarity, and stewardship. Remain steady, remain open, remain committed to the long path. What you are building is not just income, it is capacity, influence, and legacy. And when those align, wealth becomes not a struggle, but a response. Chosen one. Now we arrive at the place where everything you have heard stops being information and starts becoming instruction. This is the crossing point. Many listen to words like these and feel inspired, but only a few allow them to rearrange their behavior. Inspiration fades, alignment transforms. The billionaire gang is not entered by agreement, it is entered by embodiment. At this level, the question is no longer, do you believe? The question becomes, will you act as if it is true? Heaven responds to posture faster than it responds to prayer. When your actions confirm your faith, movement accelerates. This is why clarity is followed by responsibility. Once you see, you are accountable to respond. Chosen one. Understand this: identity precedes income. You do not earn your way into a new identity, you live from it. Those who wait for proof before changing their behavior remain trapped in cycles. Those who change their behavior first signal readiness for increase. This is not pretending, it is preparation. You begin to structure your days, your choices, and your energy around the person you are becoming, not the person you have been. I remember when I stopped asking permission to take my own life seriously. No announcement, no validation, Just a quiet decision that my time, my focus, and my standards would no longer be negotiable. That shift changed everything. When you treat your assignment as sacred, others begin to treat it as valuable. Respect follows self-respect. Chosen one, rituals matter, not religious rituals, personal ones. The way you start your day, the way you end it, the way you think before you speak. These small, repeated actions compound into authority. Wealth is not built in dramatic moments. It is built in disciplined ones. What you consistently tolerate, you normalize. What you consistently refine, you elevate. This is also the stage where discernment sharpens. You begin to sense when something is misaligned, even if it looks profitable. You feel hesitation not as fear, but as warning, and you learn to trust it. Discernment is not suspicion, it is sensitivity. The more aligned you become, the less noise you can tolerate. This is not isolation, it is focus. Chosen one. Not every opportunity is your assignment. Some are distractions disguised as blessings. They look good, they pay well, they impress others, but they dilute your energy. Saying no to good things is how you say yes to the right thing. The wealthy are not busy because they are selective. They understand that focus is finite and must be guarded fiercely. Let me speak plainly here. At some point, you must stop romanticizing struggle. Struggle taught you resilience, but it is not your destination. There is a season for grinding and a season for governing. Many remain in grind mode because it feels familiar, even when it is no longer required. Rest is not laziness when it is aligned. Ease is not arrogance when it is earned. Chosen one wealth responds to structure. Chaos repels it. This is why organization matters not just externally, but internally. Clear priorities, clear boundaries, clear intentions. When your inner world is ordered, your outer world begins to mirror it. Confusion attracts confusion. Clarity attracts resources. Another shift must happen here. You stop reacting and start responding. Reaction is emotional. Response is intentional. Reaction gives power away. Response retains it. When you pause before speaking, before deciding, before committing, you move from impulse to authority. This is where influence stabilizes. People trust those who are grounded, chosen. One, humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking accurately about your role. You are not meant to save everyone. You are meant to serve your assignment well. Overextension is often disguised as generosity. True generosity includes boundaries. You cannot pour from an empty vessel, and you are not called to empty yourself completely. At this level, relationships shift, conversations change, interests realign. Some people will feel distant, not because of conflict, but because of contrast. This is normal. Do not chase familiarity at the cost of alignment. Let distance do its work. The right connections arrive when space is made for them. Chosen. One, legacy thinking begins here. You stop asking what benefits you now and start asking what builds something that lasts. Decisions are weighed differently. Short-term gain loses its appeal when long-term impact becomes clear. This is how stewardship replaces survival. You begin to think in decades, not months. And patience becomes strength, not weakness. This is also where generosity deepens. Not because you are trying to prove abundance, but because you genuinely understand circulation. What moves flows. What stagnates decays. Giving becomes strategic, intentional, aligned with purpose. You support what aligns with your values. You invest where growth can multiply. This is wisdom, not sentiment. Chosen one. Your voice changes here. You speak less, but with more weight. You explain less, but influence more. Authority does not need volume, it needs clarity. When you know who you are and where you are going, words land differently. People feel it. They may not know why, but they trust it. Doubt may still appear, but it no longer controls you. It becomes background noise rather than a command. Confidence does not mean certainty, it means commitment despite uncertainty. You move forward because alignment is stronger than fear. This is maturity. And now hear this carefully. The billionaire gang is not impressed by potential. It responds to execution. Not frantic execution, aligned execution. The quiet, consistent application of what you know. The discipline to do what others avoid. The patience to build what others abandon. This is how access is granted. You are no longer waiting for permission. You are becoming permission. Your life begins to give others courage. Your consistency becomes proof. Your calm becomes contagious. This is influence. Chosen one. If you have stayed with this message, it is because something in you is ready to shift from awareness to action. Do not rush this moment. Let it settle. Let it reorder your priorities. Let it challenge your habits. Then move one decision at a time. You do not need a dramatic leap. You need aligned steps. One conversation you have been avoiding. One boundary you have been postponing. One habit you have been neglecting. Start there. Movement invites momentum. Heaven does not reveal everything at once. It reveals the next step. Take it. Then the next appears. This is how trust is built, through obedience in motion. Remain steady. Remain grounded. Remain committed to becoming the version of yourself that can carry what is coming. Wealth is not something you chase from here. It is something that begins to recognize you. And as you move forward, remember this truth: you were not chosen because you are perfect. You were chosen because you are willing to grow, willing to align, willing to carry responsibility with integrity. That willingness is the true entry point. Stay aligned, stay courageous, stay obedient to what you now know. The door has already opened. Your job is to walk through it. Chosen one, take a moment and breathe this in. What you have received is not just insight, it is impartation. Something has shifted in the spirit, and a transfer has already been set in motion. You did not arrive here by chance. This is your Kairos moment, your divinely appointed time, where clarity meets courage and obedience unlocks acceleration. Anointed One, heaven has heard the silent prayers you never spoke out loud. The seeds you have sown in faith, in patience, and in perseverance are now responding to the call of alignment. Do not doubt what has been stirred within you. The path ahead may unfold step by step, but every step is ordered, every door timed, every connection prepared. What you are becoming is making room for what is coming. I bless you with discernment to choose wisely, strength to move boldly, and peace to remain anchored as the elevation unfolds. Stay faithful to what lights your spirit. Stay aligned with the flow of the anointing, and walk forward with gratitude, knowing that heaven backs what it appoints. If this word resonated with your spirit, remain connected. Subscribe as an act of agreement, and if you feel led, leave a simple declaration in the comments, your city, your nation, or a quiet Amen, as a seal of faith for what is manifesting now. Go in peace, chosen one. The transfer is in motion. The timing is right, and your next chapter has already begun.